Okay, traders, welcome back. This is the GBPAUD weekly time frame. So this is a market which I was requested in one of the comments. So I hope the people who trade this pair, I hope this helps you in some way. This is the higher time frame or the weekly outlooks of GBPAUD. We're going to be going to the daily time frame and hopefully the 4 hour time frame in this video, right? So how am I currently looking at GBP AUD? Well, if I mark out my structure from left to right, this is starting from 1976. So we've got sorry, 1980. So we've got very far back structure to deal with, right? So the way that I'm currently looking at structure now is that we have price giving us a high and a low, and I just see myself looking at structure this way. So we see very clear swings in structure, right? So now we've seen price giving us the all-time high up here in 2001, and we see price giving us the low all the way down here, right? So from a weekly time frame perspective, right? From a weekly time frame perspective, we've seen price give us the the high and the low, the low and the high from this swing low up to this swing high. And notice how price in this region has given us a discounted low after many, many years. So we saw price here in the discount give us that low over here before heading higher. So from here, the way that I see price now is we're currently dealing between this swing high up here. So if I mark this up again, we're currently dealing from this swing high, right, up to this swing low down here. So this here gives us a very clear dealing range to work with, right? We see currently a bearish dealing range from this swing high to this swing low. So how am I currently looking at the markets as we speak? Okay. So the first thing I want to bring to your attention that we have a very large range over here in this region, right? So you want to ask yourself on the weekly time frame, where is the draw on liquidity, right? Where are we likely to see price head to next based off a liquidity concept or a liquidity time frame, liquidity concept, sorry. So what we have over here is we have price over here that printed a high in the market, right? So we see a high over here. Now this here is simply the draw on liquidity, DOL, draw on liquidity. So why do we see price giving us the draw on liquidity the way it has done? Well, the reason why is simply because we had this structural high over here that's currently weak. So we saw price tried to push down. It didn't quite make a new low because the new low, remember the low is down here. So we haven't quite made a new low. So price has actually been unsuccessful at making a new low. And since then we've rallied up and we just rallied up. So my overall anticipation for GBP AUD is for higher prices. So I do expect price to eventually come definitely past this current line over here, this current drawn liquidity, right? So the price point 2.24 is where I expect price to succeed in the next few months or so. So not something that's going to happen overnight, but eventually I do expect price to get up to this region. Now, if we go down to the daily time frame, we can begin to dissect why that's the case. Okay, so the way that I'm currently marking out my daily structure on GBP AUD is something like this, right? So I've seen price giving us a low over here in this region. So the black dots will annotate our daily structure, right? So the black dots annotate our daily structure. So what we see over here is we see price giving us a low, a high, a low, a high, low, a high. We have the low over here, the all-time low for this particular dealing range, for this particular area. Then we see price breaking structure to the upside. So we see price giving us a break of structure over here. Then we see price retracing, giving us a break of structure over here. Then we saw a minor retracement breaking this low, but ultimately we are bullish in terms of our structure, right? So the way that I see structure now is we see price giving us a series of highs and lows in this region. High, low, and a high over here, right? So this is roughly the way I would mark out my structure. Your structure doesn't have to be 100% like mine, but if you can have an overall structural outlook similar to this, 70-80%, your swing lows and swing highs don't have to be exactly the way I've marked them out. But if it's somewhere in roughly the same ballpark, in the same region, you will end up with the same overall analysis. That's very important to understand. So now over here, we have a very clear structural dealing range to work with, right? So we currently have a swing high up here, right? Self-explanatory swing high. Oh, and we also have, if I get rid of that, we also have price giving us down here a swing low. So now that we have our swing high and swing low established, what's the next thing you want to look for? The next thing you want to look for is potential premium and discount areas. So there's always going to be a premium and discount area. So this middle line over here represents the equilibrium or the 50% level. So this 50% level represents discount below and premium above. So now that we see price has given a very, very clear discount over here, which I'm going to mark in yellow. So price has given us a very, very clear discounted low over here, filling any potential inefficiencies we had over here to the left. And now we've seen price rocket up or rally up like this. So what does this tell us about price? So price from here indicates a very, very clear draw on liquidity up here, right? Now the draw on liquidity is going to be this high over here. So this high over here represents the draw on liquidity. Now, why is that the case? This draw on liquidity is very much the case, right? We're dealing with a weak high over here, right? So this high over here, right? If we look at this high, it hasn't made a new low, which is over here. This high over here is weak, right? So I do expect price at some point to target this high over here, right? So for those who find it difficult to trade GBP AUD, I can understand why, because we've been in a range since basically this whole year, actually, since January, we've been in a bit of a range over here, right? So this range over here isn't ideal to trade with. I get it. It's not the easiest market to trade with, which is why you need to be fluid with your market understanding and have different markets to potentially trade, right? But the way that I see it is last year we had a range over here, right? So this is typically how this market operates. I've done a little bit of back testing on it myself. We have a range, prices come and swept that range and has continued higher like this, right? So we've seen price in a range. So we've seen a rangy market. We've seen a sweep of the low. So we've seen an accumulation over here. We've seen a manipulation. Now we're seeing a bullish distribution, right? So this is the equivalent of a Wyckoff accumulation, right? Or sorry, reaccumulation, because we've already had a a shifter structure over here. Losing my words. So now that we've had price reaccumulate, so we've had a range just like this. We've had a sweep of the range and now we've continued higher. So now we're going to have a range. My overall anticipation for GBP AUD is something like this. We could see price tap into some sort of lower pricing, fill some inefficiency before heading higher. But ultimately, I expect the price point of 1.998 to be swept at some point in the near future before eventually targeting the higher draws on liquidity, which is here on the weekly time frame, right? But overall, on this particular pair, I expect pricing to look something like this. So please take a screenshot of this and keep this in your memories. I do expect price to reach and breach this area, should I say, right? So this is my overall higher time frame outlooks on GBP AUD. So if you like this video, give it a like and thumbs up. Remember, at Liquid FX, we're offering free one-to-one sessions for anyone in the community. So if that's something that interests you, feel free to drop us a comment or message me on Twitter or Instagram. I'll be more than happy to get back to each and every one of you. But until then, happy trading, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one.